I'm starting to realize, and actually this, my kind of finding you guys, this sort of, I'm a little bit of a label avoider, I guess. I think we all want to be, but finding my science nerd within, and I don't mean I'm good at science or anything, but just that it suits my brain to live an empirical sort of existence, and finding a community that supports that belief system has actually been sort of hand in hand with me finding what I feel confident in talking about on stage, like what my point of difference is, and I know there's other comedians out there doing it, but I've suddenly gone, oh, hold on, this is what interests me, logic and philosophy and the universe and macro topics.
Do you worry about making the jump to the U.S. where, you're gonna piss off some people?
Yeah, the religion stuff's not going to go down as well as it does in Europe, is it? Or are you going to find more people that find that contentious?
Yeah, that's right. But the thing about the US is, if you just take the 10% of Americans who are basically godless, if it's 10%,
I think we've got more than that. Actually.
You reckon? Yeah, well, I'm sure you.
I suspect as much.
That's a very, very valid point. You dig them out. You know, they might not. Yeah. I'm not talking about banner waving godless. I don't care what you call yourself, but if you find the idea of religion absurd and can see how funny it is that some people think that they're right about their God, and if you can and all that, if you can find the comedy in that, and I try to talk obliquely about this stuff and also to be very specific about my criticisms of religion stuff, because I think I can't, if I have to listen to another stand-up sort of go, what is it with God? That's stupid. It's not good enough. You have to get in there, and so I'm trying to do good stuff about God because I'm aware that it can be a bit of a bore. But in what is there, 300 and something million people in America? What's the population of your great nation?
I wasn't expecting that kind of question. I don't know.
You didn't bone up on that.
I really didn't.
But that means there's more people in America that are my potential audience than there are in the entire of Australia, the whole population of Australia. So you just got to find your audience, and like with my fans, your audience will find you if you say the things. But my season I did in New York last year, there's no doubt the evolution stuff that I do and things like that, it got more gasps, and I don't think it's because the people who come to my show are fundamentalist Christians or any other type. I think it's because it's more culturally, it's a big thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it might be like they're just not expecting you to go there.
Yeah, that's right. Whereas in the UK and in Australia, it's pretty much a shrug,
And I think that's the problem in the US is not that people aren't ready to hear it, but it's that most comedians, most entertainers aren't ready to go there because they're afraid people aren't ready to. And so it seems like, if you just do it, you're going to find your audience. And I suspect that you're going to find a lot of success in the US because of that.
Well, I certainly feel, my little toes in the water moments in the US have brought great support and from the industry and let's not pretend. I mean, the British are all like, oh, we're also European and we've seen it all and la la. The most cutting satire and the most anti-establishment, the iconoclastic satire comes out of America. The English all go, oh, Americans don't get irony and Americans are so conservative. Yeah, Show me one Family Guy or South Park coming out of the UK. The UK is much more into its kind of quirky absurdism. Mm-hmm. Americans, once you know where to look, are absolutely creating the most cutting-edge satire in the world. I don't think you can argue against that. So as far as I'm concerned, there's great potential and a huge amount of emails I get from Americans going, I just discovered you on Graham Norton and BBC America, and and they're really supportive. But the potential to get yourself in a bit of trouble is higher, and that's why it's exciting, because what I think is important is that gasp that they do. That's bullshit. That is a sort of tokenistic. I think it might be embedded in your constitution. Americans are
you have
that
to
thing,
gasp.
that document. Almost, yeah. That thing you guys all all spiel when you're at school and stuff. It's the basis of it is so good that you respect other people's beliefs, but the sort of negative extension of that is that you respect nonsense, and that you fail to question nonsense. And the religiosity in America is scary. It's kind of only bettered by the Middle East.
Yeah, I think I always suspected that a lot of it stems from our inability to properly define the term tolerate, because we talk a lot about tolerating religion, and a lot of people misunderstand that to mean that we have to like it. But no, when I'm just barely tolerating you, you're going to know it.
Yeah, that's right. Or tolerate religion, but don't you dare bring it into my education system.
Right. I'll allow, by tolerating, I'm going to allow you to do whatever crazy thing you want to do. Right. But that also means that I'm going to set the boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of
And also, of course, there's the horrible hypocrisy of the massive majority of, and I'm only talking about Americans because we're talking about America. I hope people don't think I'm, I do quite a lot of material about America in my show because it's just so ripe for it. It's so obvious in America. But that's not to say these people aren't all over the world. But that hypocrisy of tolerance of religion and stuff, while religion, the dominant religions in America, are intolerant of homosexuals, or intolerant of the women or intolerant of science. It's just bullshit.
Yeah. No, it's a constant fight in the U.S. between teaching people their place. And
it's sort of exciting from my point of view because over here, as I say, it's a pretty shruggy thing to say God's a biatch in the UK. No one. It's like we've heard all this before, whereas in America, it's nice as a comedian to have a pin that you can stick.
Right, and it makes it ups the ante. You're playing for more. You're not just making fun of stuff. You're causing change.
And potentially, you're not just preaching to the choir, but which is another big conversation. That issue of what is the goal of the bloggers and writers and comedians and artists and novelists and movie makers who have a non-religious worldview. How do you make it swallowable for people who either have a religious worldview or are on the fence?
But then you're right. You can either be aiming this stuff at an audience that that's going to tolerate that, or and just ignore the rest, or you can water it down to appeal to a mass audience.
Well, I don't know if you always have to compromise because I think what matters is being realistic about where you sit. Your new prez, right? I don't believe he's a very religious person. His job is to be extremely careful, to toe the line, to talk about God because it's what Americans expect. And yet, even in his inauguration, he said non-believers, which I've never heard from an American leader ever as a group. Yeah. Which was quite, and you
gave a shout out to science as well.
Gave a shout out to science,
isn't it?
But then he science. Right, all the science nerds in the audience are definitely like,
and then they edited the gay priest out of the.
You're right. And then he ended with, God bless us.
I know, and I find that the weirdest thing, right? Coming from Australia and living in England, it spooks me out that they all sit there talking as if God cares about America. It's a very strange and difficult thing for me to handle, that everyone doesn't just burst out laughing when someone says that. They should. That's the right reaction. When someone stands there like that, the preacher they did leave on, the anti-gay preacher that they left on the telly.
Rick Warren.
Rick Warren, the super
Who
preacher.
wrote Purpose-Driven Life and hates the gays.
He hates the gays, and he's like he's a good speaker, I get it, but when he's saying all that stuff, I'm just like, oh, come on, guys, why aren't 2 million people in that mall having a giggle at this? I bet 500,000 were, or 200,000, I hope so. But I guess what I was thinking is, Obama, let's say that someone like the president is not very religious. his job is to chip away at the very edges of religiosity, to go, hold on, gay people aren't so bad, and let's get back stem cell research, and let's make sure that education has a strict guideline that we use knowledge in education, not mythology, and teach mythology, and that sort of stuff. That's his job, right? For maybe a blogger or a writer, you know, maybe someone else can be a bit more conservative. Someone like me, I'm going to come out and say, religion's wrong, evolution's right. You know, if you hate gay people, you are an asshole. You know, I'm going to just do that. So it begs the question, well, what the hell am I doing? Preaching to my own atheistic choir, you know, up in my godless choir stalls. But I feel all right about that, because what I think is important is that at the other end of your president being conservative and careful, there's people radicalizing the people who are almost already there, especially young people.
Yeah.
And in comedy and music, your audience is largely young. And I'm not saying I'm out there to change the world. I'm just out there to talk about my stuff, earn some money, and do some funny songs, right? But I have to admit now my audience is getting a bit bigger, that there is an element of influence. So I see my job as being to get those kids who are like, surely this is bollocks, to help them go across the line, you know.